Have you ever felt that something wasn't right? A nagging feeling in your heart that you just couldn't shake? Maybe you've noticed things happening around you that seem more than just a coincidence. These might be signs from God trying to get your attention. God often sends us warnings when we're heading down a path that isn't in line with His will. But recognizing these signs isn't always easy. That's why today we're going to talk about 5 signs that God might be warning you. By the end of this video, you'll be better equipped to recognize these signs and respond in a way that honors God. Before we dive into these important signs, I want to remind you to subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. By subscribing, you're joining a community of believers who are all seeking to grow in their faith and live according to God's will. I share messages like this regularly, so make sure you subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss anything that could help you on your spiritual journey. Now let's get into these 5 signs that God might be warning you. Each of these signs is a way that God might be speaking to you, trying to guide you back to the path He has planned for you. Let's dive in. The first sign that God might be warning you is when you experience a persistent feeling of unrest in your spirit. This isn't just a momentary worry or anxiety, but a deep, ongoing feeling that something is not right. You might feel uneasy, anxious, or unsettled, even when everything seems okay on the surface. Imagine being on a boat in the middle of a calm sea, but underneath the surface there's a strong current pulling you in a direction you didn't intend to go. You can't see the current, you can feel its effect. This is similar to how God's warnings work. You may not see the danger immediately, but that feeling of unrest is like the current, pulling at you and urging you to pay attention. When you feel this way, it's essential to pause and seek God's guidance. He may be trying to get your attention, warning you that the path you're on isn't right for you. It's in these moments that prayer becomes crucial. Ask God to reveal what's causing this unrest and to show you the steps you need to take to find peace again. There was a woman who was offered a job that seemed perfect on paper. Great salary, excellent benefits, and a prestigious title. But no matter how hard she tried to convince herself that this was the right opportunity, she couldn't shake the feeling of unease in her heart. She prayed about it, asking God to guide her decision. And through prayer, she realized the job would take her away from her family and her church community, 2 things that were most important to her. She turned down the job, and though it was difficult, she soon found peace, knowing she had made the right choice. A few months later, she was offered another job that aligned perfectly with her values, allowed her to stay close to her loved one. God often uses this sense of unrest to warn us that something isn't right. If you're feeling this way, don't ignore it. Take it as a sign to seek God's will and make sure you're on the right path. But this is just the first sign. The next sign is one that many of us experience but often overlook. Keep watching to find out what it is. Second sign that God might be warning you is when you start noticing repeated messages or themes in your life. These could come in many forms, through sermons, Bible verses, conversations with friends, or even something as simple as a song on the radio. When the same message keeps popping up in different places, it could be God trying to get your attention. Imagine walking down a path and seeing the same sign over and over again. Each time you see it, the message becomes clearer. This is how repeated messages work in our lives. God might be placing these signs in your path to guide you, warn you, or to redirect you. For example, you might be struggling with a decision, and suddenly, everywhere you turn, you hear the same Bible verse. Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. You hear it in church, you read it in a devotional, and a friend even sends it to you in a text. This is not a coincidence. God speaking to you, reminding you to trust Him and seek His guidance. A man was considering a major financial investment that seemed like a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. But before he made his decision, he kept hearing warnings about being cautious with money, from a sermon at church to a conversation with a friend, and even in a book he was reading. At first, he brushed it off as just a coincidence, but when the message kept repeating, he realized that God was trying to warn him. He decided to pray about it and felt a strong conviction to hold off on the investment. A few months later, the investment opportunity fell through, and those who had invested lost everything. He realized that God had been protecting him from a disaster. When you notice the same message or theme repeating in your life, don't ignore it. It could be God's way of warning you and guiding you toward a better path. There are still 3 more signs that God might be warning you, and the next one is something that can affect your entire environment. Stay with me to learn more. The third sign that God might be warning you is when you encounter closed doors and roadblocks. Sometimes, no matter how hard you try, things just don't seem to work out. Opportunities that seemed promising suddenly fall through, or you keep running into obstacles that prevent you from moving forward. While this can be frustrating, it might be God's way of protecting you from something that isn't meant for you. Imagine trying to walk through a door that won't open, no matter how hard you push. You might be tempted to keep pushing, thinking that if you try hard enough, the door will eventually open. But sometimes that closed door is God's way of steering you in a different direction. He might be protecting you from something harmful or guiding you towards something better. When you encounter roadblocks in your life, it's important to pause and ask God if He's trying to tell you something. Instead of forcing your way through, take a step back and pray for clarity. Ask God if this closed door is His way of redirecting you. A young man was determined to move to a big city, pursue his dream job. He applied for dozens of positions, but every door seemed to close in his face. Frustrated and discouraged, he prayed and asked God why nothing was working out. Through prayer, he realized that he was so focused on his own plans that he hadn't considered God's plans for him. He decided to stay in his hometown and ended up finding a job that not only aligned with his passions, but also allowed him to make a positive impact on his community. Looking back, he realized that those closed doors were God's way of protecting him from a path that wasn't right for him. If you keep encountering closed doors and roadblocks, don't be discouraged. Instead, see it as a sign that God might be redirecting you. Trust that He has a better plan for you, even if you can't see it yet. Fourth sign that God might be warning you is through disturbing dreams or vision. Dreams have always been a way that God communicates with His people. In the Bible, we see many instances where God used dreams to warn, guide, or instruct His followers. When you start having dreams that leave you feeling uneasy or troubled, it could be God trying to get your attention. Picture yourself in a dream where you're walking down a dark path. Further you go, the darker it gets, and the more you feel a sense of dread. You wake up feeling disturbed, but you can't shake the feeling that the dream was trying to tell you something. This might be God's way of warning you about a choice you're making or a situation you're involved in. God might also send you visions, clear mental images or scenarios that play out in your mind when you're awake. These visions can be just as powerful as dreams and are often meant to warn you about something that's about to happen or something you need to avoid. There was a man who kept having a recurring dream about driving his car down a winding road at night. In the dream, he would always lose control of the car and crash. After having this dream several times, he started praying about it, asking God what it meant. Soon after, he realized that he had been neglecting his prayer life and was trying to take control of his life without seeking God's guidance. The dream was a warning that he needed to slow down, allow God to take the wheel in his life. Once he started praying more and trusting God, the dream stopped, and he felt a renewed sense of peace. If you're experiencing disturbing dreams or visions, don't brush them off. Take them seriously. Bring them to God in prayer. Ask Him what He's trying to tell you, how you should respond. There's still one more sign that God might be warning you, and it's one that often comes when you least expect it. Stay with me to find out what it is. The fifth sign that God might be warning you is when you start noticing unusual circumstances or strange coincidences in your life. These are the moments when things happen that seem too strange to be random, like when you keep bumping into the same person who has a message you need to hear, or when unexpected events keep steering you away from a particular path. Imagine trying to catch a flight. Everything keeps going wrong. Your alarm doesn't go off, you hit traffic, and when you finally arrive at the airport, find out the flight is delayed. While it might seem like a series of unfortunate events, it could be God's way of warning you that something isn't right about that trip. Maybe there's danger ahead. Perhaps He's redirecting you for a reason you can't see yet. These unusual circumstances are often God's way of intervening in our lives, protecting us from harm or guiding us toward a different path. They may seem like coincidences, but when you step back and look at the bigger picture, you'll often see God's hand at work. A woman was planning to attend an event that she felt uneasy about. On the day of the event, her car wouldn't start, her babysitter canceled, and a sudden storm rolled in, making it difficult to travel. Frustrated, she prayed and asked God if He was trying to tell her something. She decided to stay home, and later found out that there had been a serious accident on the road she would have taken. She realized that the unusual circumstances were God's way of protecting her. When you notice strange coincidences or unusual events happening around you, take a moment to pray and ask God if He's trying to warn you. These signs are often subtle, but they can have a significant impact on your life if you pay attention to them. So, to recap, here are the 5 signs that God might be warning you. A persistent feeling of unrest, repeated messages, closed doors, disturbing dreams or visions, and unusual circumstances or coincidences. Each of these signs is a way that God might be trying to get your attention and guide you back to the path He has planned for you. The next time you experience any of these signs, don't ignore them. Instead, take them to God in prayer and ask Him what He's trying to tell you. Remember, God's warnings are not meant to frighten us, but to protect us and guide us toward His perfect will. Trust in His guidance, and you'll find peace in knowing that He's always looking out for you. If this message has touched your heart, please share it with others who might need to hear it. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more messages that will inspire and uplift you. May God's peace be with you always. May you continue to seek His guidance in all that you do.